Hi, welcome back. So I am going to show you two ways to do marble to create different effects. One is probably more bridal and, well, it depends on how bold a cake you're going as well. So you can do marbling, so it's just really kind of faint and veins all kind of blends into the cake. And the other method that you can do is by kind of self-colouring different shades of the colour of fondant of what you want, and then kind of putting them together and marbling this way. I tend to use probably the more subtle one when it comes to the wedding side, just so it creates a little bit of interest within the tiers, rather than having kind of Hi and welcome back. I'm going to show you a couple of different marbling techniques just to create a really light, subtle marble and one that's a bit more bold. Again, for the bolder one, I am going to use deep purple, just so obviously you can see the contrast and how well it works. And for the more subtle one, I'm just going to use the colour Mill Black, which is it's what I use to kind of get my kind of light greys and things as well. So starting off with just giving the fondant a really good knead to make sure it's nice and soft. Okay. Everybody's got their own way of doing this. I'm just showing you my method, so what works for me to give me the effects that I like. So fondant's nice and soft. Give the colour milk a good shake. And so, excuse my messy top, always messy. I'm going to use a cocktail stick and just insert the cocktail stick into the cake or into the fondant with some colour milk on it. So I kind of build this up because you can't really unmarble once it's in there. It's in there. So I'm just going to stab to about 4 or 5 times. And I'm just going to start folding and twisting it in on itself. I'm not worried about the wee bits that are on my hands here. What you can start to see already is the colour is really just underneath the fondant. So it just creates like really nice, subtle patches of marbling. Hopefully you're able to see this in here. So this is, when I do it this way, it's one of the reasons why I like to make sure that I've kneaded the fondant well beforehand, because when it gets to when you can see the kind of colour spread like this, I don't want to continue to mix the fondant because I don't want it all to become grey. I want it so you can still see these beautiful lines. So when I roll it out onto the cake board, this is just going to spread, and that's how you're going to get the lovely marbling effect. Okay, so I'm quite happy because I've got some nice deep dark greens. I've got some of the lighter grey ones and things that are here. And again, some of the darker grey that is here. So I'm going to roll this out for the cake drum. Again, just using my corn flour. And my trusty rolling pin. If there's a nice stretch of marbling, like I really like this portion that's here, what I'll do is I'll try to make sure that I can stretch that far enough out so it's seen. Okay, so what that has done is created a beautiful, subtle marbling effect. If you turn it over, I'm always surprised by what you find on the back as well, because you were putting the colours in at different angles, or the black in at different angles. Obviously, where it's getting kneaded through the fondant, it's distributing. It's distributing everywhere. So you might find that you prefer the upside down of your fondant rather than the top. In this instance, I do prefer the upside down, so this is the side that I would use for the cake board. So again, bringing the cake board, popping the fondant on top. This time, I'm going to roll a bit more when it's onto the cake board. This one I'm not embossing, so I don't mind that I'm rolling it a bit thinner. So this fondant is actually sticking by itself. We'll put a wee bit of water here. But as I say, I tend to find that if the fondant is a little bit stickier, it'll stick to the cake board itself, no problem. Again, just using my flat smoother to make sure that it's super secured to the cake board. This is the same technique that I would use when I come to marble a cake as well. And it just creates a beautiful, beautiful finish. So again, time to trim off the edge. All covered in colour now, obviously. So you can see. Again, you can use your craft knife, or use whatever you're most comfortable with using. I like to use these razors because they are super, super sharp. Just tidy up the edges. Like running the smoother. And there we go. You can see that's created a beautiful, subtle marbling with like no effort at all. It's really, really effective. Okay, so join me back and I will show you how to create the second marbling technique. Hi, welcome back. So this is the second technique that that I'm going to show you for how to do marbling. As I said in the other video, I like to do this one if I'm creating a bolder marble. So maybe kind of using colour or wanting to go like kind of deeper shades and things as well. Just because it gives, in my opinion, it just gives a kind of better finish. So I've got my base colour of my white. I went for a kind of darker Cadbury's purple and a slightly lighter shade of purple as well. So this technique is super easy as well. So I've already kneaded the fondant. It's really nice and soft. And I'm just going to roll it out into a sausage shape. I'm making look more difficult than what it actually is, it would appear. Okay. And then I'm going to take bits of my darker and my light, and again I'm going to roll out sausage shapes. These don't have to be like, well, as you can tell, because mine aren't like super perfect or anything, because marble isn't perfect, it's pretty random. There's never really any marble that's the same. Okay, so you've got your giant roll and you've got all your wee bits as well, and I'm just going to start placing them and pushing them into the fondant. You might not use as much as this. So again, I'm not creating, they don't have to go in kind of perfect straight lines. I'm literally just pushing them into the fondant. Turning the fondant round, on this side, pressing it in. And everybody does have their own way of doing this, but this is just what I like to do and what works for me. Okay, so here, you can always add more in if you feel like you need more contrast when you get started. Okay, pop that one to the side. Okay, so we've got still a kind of a sausage. The first thing we're going to do is just give everything a good squeeze. To push those bits of fondant into your white snake that you've got. So trying to make it back more into a sausage shape. Okay, so from here, so I'm going to twist the ends and then marry the ends up together like this, and then the same thing, I'm going to press them together firmly so they start to join. Together. So you can see you've got your lighter and your darker shades as well as the bright. Again, squeeze them together. We're going to marry the ends together again. Squeeze. And then pushing it. So what I don't obviously want for it all to be purple, so that's why I'm kind of pressing it down rather than kneading it into each other at this stage, because I want there to be the definition, and as I said, this is how I do the bolder of the marblings. So just repeating the process. Every time you're kind of folding and getting smaller, so it's getting chunkier, like we're getting to that, aiming to get to that ball like we do when we roll out our fondant. I'm pretty happy with how this is starting to look, so you can see they're all joined together. The purples are starting to fade or blend into the white, so you're getting light and dark contrast, but you're going to end up with some really nice veins because you've not physically kneaded the fondants together. Okay. Right, I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. So I'm going to bring this more into a ball shape now. For me to roll out. Wise to make sure that you're not actually stuck to your work surface. Would be a good thing there, Kim. Okay, so the same idea that we had with the subtle fondant, or the subtle marble, is we'll make sure that we check each side, because we might prefer the side that we're rolling out on rather than the side that's on top. Okay, so again, make sure your fondant is not on there, and we're just going to roll out. Again, I've chosen the nice purples because it's a really nice contrast for you to see. And this works really well with like lush pink, which is still very much a fixture on the wedding side of things. It's not just quite as bold as the purple, but you are able to see better with a darker colour when I'm doing this. Okay, so you can see that by doing all the pressing rather than kneading it together actually has created lots and lots of layers rather than it just being all the one colour. So it's super lovely. Okay, so quite happy with this. I'm going to turn it over and we'll have a wee look to see what side we prefer. Ooh, I prefer this side. Instantly, I prefer this side. It's just your personal preference, isn't it? So this is the side that we're going to use. Again, just making sure we've got it rolled out to the size of our cake board, which we do. We transfer it across. using the smoother again, just to attach it. Make it all smooth. Go. And then again, going in with my trusted razor blade and trimming off the excess. There's always one bit that sticks on the cake board. It tends to be where the silver foil overlaps. Okay, just removing the excess. Then smooth. And then, oh, so what I've done there, you maybe not be able to see it, but I'm honest enough to show you, is I've overcut on this edge here. So I've got a wee line. So I'm just going to push the fondant back out past the level of the board and retrim this edge here. So it's nice and smooth. There we go. So that is how to do a more concentrated rather than the more subtle one that we done before. So both really nice techniques. As I say, the top one here, the more subtle one, is one that I would probably use more in the bridal kind of side of things. This is the one that I would probably use to get kind of the bolder colours on the kind of birthday cakes and things anyway. But yeah, both really effective techniques and just add a little bit of something to your final designs.